President Trump continually boasts that D.C. is now one of the safest cities in America. Fact check true. I can tell you that. I lived in an area I wouldn't walk outside after dark, and now it's wonderful. This summer, Trump called in the National Guard following the brutal attack of a former member of DOJ. A young man known, sorry mom, but this is how the world knows him, as Big Balls. You might remember him from Elon Musk's team. 2 teens were arrested after they tried to carjack him, also known as Edward Korstein. Today, we learned a soft-on-crime judge in D.C. sentenced them to probation for doing that. The president was not impressed.
Here in D.C., a judge has given the 2 teenagers that beat up ex-DOJ staffer Big Balls probation.
It's incredible.
And no jail time. Is this justice?
They beat the hell out of this guy, and there was many people against this one guy. I think the judge should be ashamed of himself.
I think it was a woman. I could be wrong. Welcome to 2025, where I think for the first time on camera, Big Balls was heard in the Oval Office. With that, Julian Epstein, Democratic strategist, attorney, former chief counsel of the House Judiciary Committee, and the man himself from the Town Hall with the credential. There it is. Lift it up. There it is. News Nation contributor Kurt Bardella. Gents, good to see both of you. Julian, start with you. When you've got a judge letting someone out who savagely beat up and tried to carjack somebody, let 2 kids off with probation, can Democrats talk about Trump's crime problem with any credibility?
No, and they're losing on the crime issue. And American people overwhelmingly want violent criminals off the streets. So if the Democrats don't like the National Guard going into cities to make them safer, our cities have crime rates, murder rates that are 20 times that of London. Whether they're going up or down, it's sort of immaterial. The rates are just way too high. The murder rates are way too high. So if the Democrats don't like things like the National Guard going into cities, they need to come up with another solution. They need to be on the side of getting violent criminals off the streets. And their brand right now is that they care more about the criminals than they do about the victims.
Kurt, why is it so hard for Democrats to say simply that, for elected Democrats? I know you talk to and consult with a lot of them.
I thought Congresswoman Dean tonight from Pennsylvania made a good point about what Democrats should be saying, which is their knee-jerk reaction is always anything that Trump suggests, particularly they're automatically opposed to. Their base almost demands that of them. But she brought up the point of saying, why isn't our first response, what can we do to help? What can we do to help law enforcement? What can we do to give them more resources? What can we do to be positive rather than the negative of don't come into our backyard, we don't need your help, which is clearly untrue. And I think Democrats need to reframe that completely. It's mind-numbing to me that on an issue which they have been upside down on now for years, they continue to just fall into that trap.
Trump's superpower, right, is making his political opponents do stupid things.
Oh, he basically...
that is...
It's rope-a-dope.
Yeah, okay, and it's working, right? Chance of winning the House in 2026, Kalshi prediction market odds. Dems in April, this is when the tariffs came in, 83%. These are the betting markets.
Yeah.
Now, Democrats are down 20 points, Republicans are up 20 points. It's 60-40. Kurt, what happened, and are Democrats scared about it?
They should be scared about it, and I think what happened was we have seen Donald Trump, regardless of what you think about him politically, run off a string of victories. Success breeds success. Whether it's getting his bills passed, whether it's brokering Middle East peace, whether it's ending, multiple conflicts across the globe, success breeds success. Democrats don't have anything to hang their hat on right now, other than the very unpopular decision to shut down the federal government.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, the midterm election should be a slam dunk for the out-of-power party. And that's why the betting odds were at 83% a few months ago. The reason that they're so much lower now is because Democrats have a bad brand. And the approval well, let me just finish. The approval rate of Democrats in Congress is about 18%. Some polls have it in the 20s. The reason the Democrats have such a bad brand is because they do 2 things. They call the Republicans names. They call them Nazis and things like that, which are historically illiterate accusations. And they just have this terrible street theater choreography. People have no idea what the Democrats stand for. So if the Democrats want to do well, they have to start building things.
Well, they stand for being against Donald Trump. I would like to announce tonight is the first episode of a new show called The Only Honest Self-Hating Democrats, hosted by Kurt Bardella and Julian Epstein.
I'd watch that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. We might be the only two.
Right, no, but
Definitely on the left.
there is something about this, right? And I think you said it perfectly, that the base demands that Democrats do things that are politically, on a national level, or with the center, which is what this town hall was about, unpopular.
Yeah, and Congressman Ro Khanna, who is also a part of the town hall tonight, he makes a good point when he says when you think about Democrats, you think about being judged. They're just very judgy. And one of the things we know just in basic public customer relations, for every negative interaction that you have, you have to have 10 positive ones to offset that. Democrats have never gotten the memo on that.
Yeah.
They have these negative interactions with voters, get repudiated and rejected by the voters, and then offer nothing to offset that except more of the same.
Moral superiority doesn't sell. And the problem for the Democrats is exactly as you just said, that the activist left, the NGOs, the donors, the activists are all far to the left of the median voter. But all of the major national candidates now are catering to them. They want their fundraising, they want their social media attention. This is the paradox for the Democrats. They cannot break away from the activist left, which is way far to the left of the median voter. And until you have a Bill Clinton-like figure that can stand up and say, the activist left is wrong, we need sister soldier moments, not just on crime, not just on immigration, but on just about every issue, until you have a charismatic candidate that can come out and say that, the Democrats are going to be in the wilderness.
And what are they doing tonight? They are putting up as the face of the Democratic Party on another network, AOC and Bernie Sanders to be their poster child.
Well, there's no Democrat who's willing to come out and do that, right? I mean, you think about Andy Beshear in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro,
Fetterman.
Fetterman's the only one who's coming close, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is John Fetterman the presidential candidate for Democrats?
No, because I don't think he wants to do it. But the other point I want to make here is...
Well, you have about 10 seconds.
For years, Democrats said Republicans were held hostage by their base and they went too extreme, and that was a negative. And now they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Honest, self-hating Democrats. We'll have another episode next week.
We're not self-hating. We want to correct the party. We want to see the party flourish. We want to see the party thrive.
Two honest Democrats
this is called
reappears
tough love.
next week.
Tough love.
Democrats with tough love.
Tough
All right.
love.
We're going to wordsmith this on Twitter. They'll be back. Kurt, Julian, thank you.